Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a Tactics Talk, guys. Welcome back. Got my coffee, and we've got Porani from Clan GFLC, my clan, and we've got him in a T-150. Spawned into the north on some map called Kharkov. Spawned into the north on Kharkov. T-150 Tier 6 Russian heavy tank. Great setup for him. A city map where he can protect himself a bit from arty, although it is an LEF and a M41 fast firing. Decent arcs so that you can reach him a bit in the city. Facing an ARL, that is dangerous. A KV-2 could be a problem. Couple decent TDs that can thump him. Not going to have too much trouble going through his armor, but overall a good setup because he's top tier in a tier 5 and 6. Look at those hit points, folks. 990 hit points. That's from the buff, right? A lot of extra hit points. Well, maybe that's a little overstating it. It's not a lot of extra hit points at tier 6, but it is some. And it is pretty significant, I have noted. It does make the battles go a little longer. People are less of 1 to 2 shots. So they stay in it a little bit longer. Very interesting. So Porani's going to come up here. I have two things. He said, well, first of all, he asked me what could I have done better. And that's kind of one of my favorite things for these replay analysis is to take a look at it and give you guys a couple pointers on things you could have done better. With the advantage of sitting here at 1G and not being busy driving the tank and all that good stuff. And I can take a look at it, give it a critical objective eye, and we can start talking about some things. So Porani goes to a good initial spot. I like that spot for heavy. The other one is across that street over in the circle over there and moving along the edge. That's a little more limited in its ability to affect more of the battle. I like this place here a bit more. I have a little bit more trouble over on that eastern edge just because you can't cross that road, and if you get stuck there against an overwhelming force, you're in big trouble. Here, if they come at you, you've got some options on falling back and things like that. Also, you can affect the circle from here because you can see through those open holes. The circle cannot affect where Porani is, and there's a number of these openings along here because of these berms that sit right here. So there you go. That's why I like this spot a lot better. T14 drives Hey Diddle Diddle right up the middle. That's a very dopey move, but very good for Porani. Notice that T14 is actually a tier 5, and it has 900 hit points. Only 90 less than Porani. Isn't that interesting? So Porani sees that. That's great. Now we're going to start taking this guy. And this is going to bring me to the two things I mentioned earlier. I have two kind of major things. One is mechanical for you. The second one is decision making. So let's get to that and we'll see what's going on. So we come in here, we shift zoom, we fire. I thought that was a little rushed. Based on I would have been really surprised on somebody else coming up the middle. But guess what? I don't know. Somebody else is coming, Hey Diddle Diddle, right up the middle. That's just one of those things that I would have made that calculation at the beginning, saying no way there's anyone else with this T14. I'm going to come out there, take a nice aim shot, but I might have eaten a shot from the KV-2. You're using shift zoom. I've talked about that a lot. I'm a scroll wheel person. If you can use a shift zoom and do well with it, by all means stick with it. I would, if I got a brand new player, I would advise them to start with the scroll wheel. What was interesting about that, actually, somebody said I don't have a mouse with a scroll wheel, at which one I went, what kind of heretic are you? But there you go. You know, there are mice out there without scroll wheels. I tend to have and the game tends to have an older demographic. So there you go. That was just not something I'd ever thought about. So I think I would have aimed in anyway a little bit more carefully. And so the mechanical piece of that is for something like this, instead of being way out here in third person, coming out from this berm, hitting shift and zooming straight into him. What I do in this case, and one of the reasons I like the scroll wheels, I kind of zoom in this much so I know where my gun is. And I come around that corner, I only expose enough of my tank to get a shot on that guy. And with a derpy gun like this, not nearly as bad as the KV-2, but not the most accurate gun. It's good, but not amazing on the T150. I would let that start to settle just a little bit. Okay? So that's what I've got for you there, and we're going to see this happen a couple times. Now the KV-2 is coming up. The thing about the KV-2 moving is his dispersion is massive. Now that doesn't help you if he turns his turret, snaps, and RNG says, haha, I'm going to hit you. But as a general rule, if you're calculating the risk of the poke, when somebody's moving and their turret's not pointed at you, there's less risk, obviously, of them either seeing you, because it looks like he's paying attention to somebody down in the corner, or moving their turret and hitting you because of the dispersion is giant. Clearly the T14 is looking. The danger here is that guy may be looking to track you. And if he pins you down, and that KV-2 then gets an aim, you've got some trouble. So let's see how Porani handles the rest of this engagement. All right, the KV-2 just looked. I don't think it was a bad decision to do that, and it looks like you shifted to shoot the KV-2, or maybe you missed. So you'd have to let us know. I don't know which one you prioritized. I think I would have gone after the T14. I definitely would have gone after. So maybe it was just a case of not being able to aim at the right guy, or maybe you hit it exactly the guy you were aiming at, or maybe you didn't care. It was a mass of tanks and you just fired. But again, that kind of goes to my point. The mechanical side of it, the popping out and shooting, which now you have, what, one shot into the KV2 and one track, I think, in the KV14. So when I came around on that one, I may have just come around just enough to shoot at the T14. The other reason why I would do that is I would not come out as far as to expose myself as much to the KV2, although I think he will be shooting over the shoulder of the T14 there. I may have called it a KV14, but you get the picture. Now he's just coming in, and it's time to get rid of him. KV2 is getting hit, so he backs out, and boom. Actually, that was one of your buddies. You got the spotting out of it. You didn't quite get there in time. All right. Now, from this point at minute 13:06, we're kind of messing around with this KV2, and I think you're doing the right thing for the moment. But let's watch how this fight develops here. We get the KV2. He's backing out. He takes a shot. We miss as well. I think I would have prioritized the aiming point in between the post and the wall like you did at the end from the beginning, because he was backing into that spot. Looked like you were trying to go in front of it. So mechanically, I'd have shifted a little bit further back, anticipating where the shot's going to be. If I can move my turret to where he's going and stop, then my dispersion circle will come down better, and I'll have a bit of a more accurate shot right there. So we've taken a couple more shots in there. That wasn't a bad poke because he was moving. Now he's behind the cover, not looking at you. Every time he rocks back and forth, that dispersion circle is getting big. So now you have taken the position on him. One thing I will do in situations like this is kind of check. Every once in a while, I'll come out of the sniper zoom and just make sure somebody's not driving up along here to help him out. So we're watching this go down. Got a nice zoom, and we shoot right there. Nicely done. So I thought that was well done mechanically. We've got that shot, and he's down to basically a one shot. Looks like we're trying to bait this guy into shooting. I don't know about that. The problem is you're putting the side of your tank out, which is pennable, potentially, by the HE round. The good news is there's tracks in the way, so you may have the tracks eat the HE round right there. Now watch this KV2. The friendly KV2 starts to move up. Finally, somebody's coming up to support you. I think you're in exactly the place you want to be right now. You've kind of got one of their tier 6s pinned down. I would be curious at where the ARL 44 is. That's an interesting one, because where is that guy? And, oh, by the way, is he going to show up behind me right here? So far, so good anyway. He's not there. Look at this KV2. Your KV2 buddy actually just tried to shoot. I don't know if he tried to lob it or if he actually had a pixel of the top. And I thought that was a great move right there. You come in there. But, man, you got away with it. There's also a strange thing about the shift zoom that I'm noticing as well that I haven't noticed before. It looks like what's happening is you'll come out in this third person, shift, fire. But after you fire, it automatically goes back to where you were before you shifted. I'm not sure. Maybe you're shifting immediately back, but that fire and the camera jumping back, for me anyway, is super distracting. But it is a nice way to get back and get SA on the bigger picture of stuff. Also, you zoom out a little more than I do, so I'm assuming you have a zoom mod, because that's the best I can do right there. When I'm in your view, there's your view, and that's the most I can zoom out. That's actually a pretty good example for everybody of what that zoom mod can do. That's zoomed out further with the zoom mod. This is the maximum zoom that I have with the vanilla client. So you can see how much more SA you can gather when you zoom out. Just to go off on a random tangent here, and you can set it. Some of the mods will let you set it to, I don't know, 1,000 meters or something crazy. You can actually sky up into the air and sort of look down God's eye view, or pretty dang close to it. Peek over buildings and look in like the other square to your right or your left, and pay attention to what guys are looking at and what they're doing. So it is an advantage with the zoom out mod. Quite frankly, I'm surprised they still allow those mega zooms, because they are an advantage tactically and strategically really in the game. But there you go. All right, let's get going again. We've got Pirani doing a nice job with 792 damage, 1,041 assist. Watch your KV2 though. So that's the mechanical piece. I think you rushed some of your shots in there. You could have been a little more careful. Not a fan of the shift zoom, but it worked, and we've got the KV2 dead, so fantastic. Just some things for you to think about right there. Now we're getting into the decision-making time. We've killed the KV2, we've killed the T14. Nobody else is really pushing into the circle. Nobody showed up behind me, thank goodness, because you spent a lot of time staring at the KV2. And now your KV2 is moving up. So let's watch how this further develops. We're going to kind of look. Oh, we got a guy crossing. Yeah, you had to kind of take a snap if you're going to have any chance against that guy. So, all right, so now there's a Panzer IV, but man, he's got a lot of company, doesn't he? You've got a lot of guys in this square. Then we find the Stug, and we're thinking, how can we hit him? And oops, there's the ARL. He was peeking into the middle, too, while you were doing that. And he sneaks a shot into you from that other berm. And the Stug is behind the broken down World War I tank, or whatever that thing is there. Why were there World War I tanks sitting around on all these battlefields? I just realized this. There's one on not Fisherman's Bay. What's the one called? There's like 7 or 8 of them out in the field. Oh, are they left over? They must be left over from the World War I battles. I wonder if that was a thing when World War II started. Were there still battlefields with World War I tanks sitting around rusting? I don't know that. All right, that was good. A little random tangent because it's let this thing develop. So now take a look at what's going on the map. Panzer III is moving up KV2. We've got the Panzer IV-H dead. There's a M4A1, whatever, on the corner. There's a Stug. He seems to be stuck in the middle right there. You just saw a bunch of people die coming up the middle. And now your KV2 has gone up and he's engaging an ARL. So think about that now as you're looking at it at 1G. What would you have rather have done right here? I'm going to let this go for a bit. Because I'll be honest, inexplicably, at least to me, we drive out into the open, into the middle right here. And I don't know if your thought was to go around the ARL to get behind him potentially. My problem with this is you're about to expose yourself to a bunch of TDs. Now watch what happens to this Panzer III-4. He goes over here and he starts eating shots and he dies to the T-67. That's not really a surprise that over here in these bushes right here, there are TDs hanging out, because they'll hang out here to shoot your guys come around this corner, or anyone who drives up the middle, much like your guys back here did to the guys going up the middle here. For my money, and this is the decision-making and map reading part that I said I had one thing for you, is I would have gone and backed up your KV2. Because between the two of you, you'd easily taken down the ARL-44. The ARL-44 is locking down this part of the city, and then you can worry about moving through here and coming up behind or around these TDs, because you've got plenty of guys back here watching all of this. So we're actually going to go up the middle. We're very lucky the Nashorn, and obviously he's not because I can see him on the map, and maybe you noticed that the Nashorn and the WZ-13G, so there's the Stug and the T-67, that kind of accounts for all the TDs, and really if you count noses, that's about all of their tanks right there. So we're going to sneak in behind here and just try to get a cheeky shot into the rear end of the Stug. But that doesn't work, so we'll shoot, and now we'll turn back around. And this KV2 is still futzing around with this ARL-44. He can't poke because he's a one-shot to the ARL, and the ARL can't poke because he's a potential one-shot to the KV2. Although, I don't know, I might have taken that chance as the ARL, try to give him my turret there, shoot him and kill him, and maybe eat one shot. This was great. Watch this, guys. Okay. You used the SA. I thought that was fantastic. You saw who killed the, whatever that tank was that got killed, the Panzer III-4. You saw it was the T-67. You had a great guess of what bush he's in, although there are several there, so good on you for starting on one edge. I guess the plan was maybe to start there and move through, but the first shot found him and takes out the T-67. That was awesome, man. Blind shooting. That's something to learn, guys. We'll come out here and we'll just nuke him. Let's just talk about that for just a second, since we're debriefing this whole thing, just for everybody. That was really well done. That is something that Skill4TU and several of the other very good players talk about quite a bit. Blind shots into known locations are not a bad thing. Just make sure you're prioritizing it correct. If he had a shot at something that was lit, or maybe there was somebody else in the bush, or he was about to get pushed by somebody, that kind of thing, he might want to risk taking one hit from the T-67 and kill somebody closer. But he really didn't have any shots, and he had time to shoot. This reloads relatively quickly for a heavy, and there was nothing lost by taking that shot. So those are the kinds of shots. Or maybe you're moving from cover to cover, and you know there's guys usually in that bush, and your intention is to get to the next spot, but you have to expose yourself. Take that shot. The only thing I will caution about that is remember your camo is decreased when you fire. So say you're in a medium and you're not spotted, you take that shot, we're at a known TD bush, you may be spotted afterwards and you may regret that you got spotted. So you got to take all that into your calculus on taking blind shots. But as a general rule, with nothing else to do at the moment and a shell in and a known spot, take a poke at it. Who knows? All right, the Stug is pretty much doomed. He's just sort of hanging out right here. Jackson's coming up behind him. We don't have to worry about the T-67 anymore. That was a lot better. All right, so that mechanically, that poke with just a little bit, even a little bit of aim, is going to make that shot so much better. I thought that was much better done than your earlier ones, which seemed a little bit more, I'm not, spastic's not the word, but just rushed, a little bit more rushed. And that may have had a lot to do with it's a KV2 and I don't want to get hit, and there's a T-14 with him. There's two of them, and the T-14 fires fast enough. He can track me. All those things are taken into consideration, but that was much better, I thought, than the rest of them. And the Jackson's going to kill this guy. I like how you just push, whatever. I'll push around the corner, do the angle. I don't know why he didn't shoot you the moment you came around the corner, but who knows? People have different pings, different reflexes. Could have been looking at something else. Maybe he was zoomed out, turned around behind. Who knows? Now, see, the ARL is still alive. I think, really, if we'd have gone to the ARL, killed him off, we could have come over here and done this same thing just about as easily. And that would have broken open our KV2. Hellcat goes around and takes a hit. Looks like the ARL has a small gun, huh? Is that right? The Hellcat didn't take much damage. Was this KV2 sitting there getting stuffed by a 100 Alpha gun? He may have been. Maybe. Probably could have side scraped out of there and had the same reaction or the same effect. But anyway, you save the KV2 and we blast straight at them. This was a little curious to me. You stopped. I think really, man, I'd have crossed over to here. I think that's a ramp, but potentially you can get around behind here. I think you can come off this ramp without dying and then come up behind these guys, cover these bushes in the cover of these buildings right here in the back and kind of take a peek. But as it is, we just sort of blaze across the middle. Not my favorite move, actually, because of two Arty, a fast-firing T-34, and a relatively hard-hitting WZ-132 GFT. This was not my favorite move. This was okay. You got to this cover, but now because you haven't found anybody, you're kind of like, all right, I'm going to have to come out of this. And clearly, right around here somewhere, somebody is going to see us. Yeah, all of a sudden, the Type 34 sees us. We get blapped by the LEFH. Watch this, guys. He fixes everything, and he's on the run, and we're going to blap him. We hit the LEFH and bounced. Oh, that is such a bummer. Thank goodness he didn't hit us. We get hit by the 34. Arty flying, people dying, babies crying. Oh, and finally the T-34 gets a track and inexplicably stopped shooting. So I don't know if he did. If you may have been dark and that was a guess shot, and he didn't know he tracked you. But that surprised me a bit. I would imagine that's what happened, because I think if he'd have known he tracked you, you'd have eaten more and more shots right there. Look what your buddies did. Well, here comes the KV2 20-2 finally. The rest of them sat back there looking for you to scout by fire. I think you were committed. I would have just gone at this guy, to be quite honest. You knew you were going to get hit. I'd have turned, squared up my armor against both the T-34 and the Arty and just went straight at them. We're going to back. LEFH is dead. People are trying to kill this T-41 or M41 HMC. Finally, the 220 just says, screw it, I'm heading in. He's not getting spotted until about right here. This T-34 really wants to shoot, and it may be that the 220's covered up, because watch what happens. As soon as Pirani comes around the corner here, 220 kills. Watch this. He pokes out a little bit, and there's our friend. Our friend was he's just aimed in and waiting for Pirani. Actually, I'm sorry. I need to show what Pirani's doing with his camera right there. That was a guess shot. I thought it was a pretty good try, but unfortunately, it would have been fantastic if there was two of those in one game, but it didn't work out. T-34 moves out of there, and he's not long for the world. Everyone starts shooting him, and down he goes, killed by the Hellcat. 4 kills, 1,497 damage, 1,926 assists. Two things for you, really. The decision-making, I would have gone after the ARL. How you handled the rest of it was good. I certainly would not have gone up the middle right there. And the second thing is just mechanically, I think you rushed some of your shots in there that you didn't need to. A couple of them I thought were appropriate. A couple of them I thought were a little too rushed. And again, take it or leave it, the shift zoom thing and how much you expose yourself. I think mechanically it's inferior to a scroll wheel and a more careful move out. But that's That's just my opinion. Like I said, take it or leave it. Thanks for coming by, guys. I do appreciate the support as always. If you like what you saw, you learned something, go ahead and throw me a follow. That's all I've got for today, and we will see you.